Some things are better left unexplored, but curiosity has a way of dragging us into places we shouldn't go. Cassie's fingers trembled as she pressed the small copper coin into Matt's palm. "Your turn," she whispered. The 5 of them stood in a circle around the moss-covered well, its stone rim crumbling in places, the forest unusually quiet around them. What had started as a boring Saturday afternoon hike had turned into something else entirely when they stumbled upon this clearing and the ancient structure within it. "This is stupid," Matt said, but his voice lacked conviction. He flipped the coin between his fingers, looking down into the darkness. "We don't even know how deep this thing is." "Don't be such a pussy," said Damon, shoving him lightly. "We all agreed. 5 coins, 5 wishes." Matt glanced at the others. Cassie, with her anxious eyes. Eliza, picking at her black nail polish. Vince, leaning against a nearby tree with his typical bored expression. They'd been friends since middle school, but lately things felt different. Senior year was ending, and the familiar bonds were already starting to fray. "Fine," Matt said. He closed his eyes. "I wish." He paused, then grinned. "I wish I was actually good enough to get a football scholarship." He tossed the coin. They all leaned forward, listening for the splash. Seconds passed, far too many for a normal well. Then, a soft plunk. "Huh," said Vince. "That was weird." "I felt something," Eliza said suddenly, her eyes wide. "When the coin hit the water. Like, I don't know, like something noticed us." "Bullshit," Damon laughed, but his eyes darted nervously to the dark opening of the well. "My turn," Cassie said. She already had her coin ready, a worn penny her father had given her before he'd left for good. "I wish my mum would stop drinking," she said quietly, and flicked the coin into the darkness. Again, that unnatural pause, then the soft sound of the coin hitting water. "I felt it too," Matt whispered. One by one, they made their wishes. Eliza wished for her art to be recognized. Vince, for his parents to finally see him. And Damon, with a cocky grin, wished for Melissa Parker to fall madly in love with him. After the final coin dropped, they stood in silence, the air around the well suddenly cold despite the warm May afternoon. "That was something," Damon finally said, breaking the tension. "Let's get out of here," Cassie suggested. "I'm getting the creeps." As they turned to leave, Vince paused, frowning. "Do you guys see that?" On the inner wall of the well, previously hidden in shadow, were faint markings. They crowded around to look. "It's Latin, I think," said Eliza, who was taking it as an elective. "What does it say?" Matt asked. She squinted. "I can only make out a few words. Something about payment and balance." "Spooky," Damon mocked. "Come on, I told my mom I'd be home for dinner." They left the clearing, laughing off the strange feelings, unaware of the dark water stirring below, ripples spreading outward from where their coins had disturbed its surface. Matt was having the practice of his life. Every pass perfect, every run unstoppable. Coach Brennan couldn't believe it, and neither could his teammates. "Williams, where the hell did that come from?" Coach shouted, grinning wide. Matt just shook his head, bewildered. He'd been a decent player before, but nothing special. Now he was moving like he'd been possessed by the spirit of some NFL legend. In the stands, a scout from State University was scribbling frantically in his notebook. After practice, Matt was the last one in the locker room, still riding the high of his unexplainable performance. He was pulling on his shirt when he noticed something strange in the mirror, a thin red line across his palm, right where he'd held the coin. He brought his hand closer to his face. It wasn't a cut, exactly. More like a seam, as if his skin had been sewn together with invisible thread. When he pressed it, a droplet of blood welled up. His phone buzzed. A text from Cassie. "Did anything weird happen to you today?" He was about to respond when he heard a sound from the shower area, a soft, rhythmic dripping. "Hello," he called. No answer, but the dripping continued. Matt walked toward the showers, his heartbeat quickening. All the showers were off, but water was dripping from one of the faucets, except it wasn't water. The liquid hitting the tile was dark, red. Matt stepped closer, transfixed. As he watched, the dripping changed rhythm, becoming deliberate, like Morse code. Drip, 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 drip. He had the unsettling feeling it was trying to communicate, that it was aware of him. His phone buzzed again, breaking the trance. Matt backed away quickly, suddenly desperate to leave. As he hurried out, he could have sworn he heard a faint whisper from the drain. Fair exchange. Cassie came home to find her mother sitting at the kitchen table, a stack of AA pamphlets in front of her. "Mom." Her mother looked up, eyes clear for the first time in months. "Hi, sweetie. I've been thinking. I need to make some changes." Cassie nearly fell over. For 3 years she'd been begging her mother to get help. For 3 years she'd been cleaning up vomit, hiding bottles, making excuses to her friends about why they couldn't come over. What brought this on?" she asked, afraid to hope. Her mother sighed. "I had this dream. I can't really explain it, but I woke up and just knew I had to stop. I poured everything down the drain this morning." Cassie felt tears well up. She thought of the well, the wish. It couldn't be. But what else could explain this sudden change? She helped her mother research treatment programs, feeling lighter than she had in years. That night, she slept soundly for the first time in months, until 3:17 a.m., when she woke to a soft sound. Drip, drip, drip. The bathroom faucet. She got up to check. As she reached for the handle, she noticed a strange mark on her wrist, where she'd held the coin. A small, perfect circle, like a brand. It hadn't been there before. The dripping wasn't coming from the faucet. All the fixtures were bone dry, but the sound continued, seeming to come from the walls themselves. Cassie pressed her ear against the cool tile. Drip, 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 and then a whisper. Tribute required. She jerked back, heart pounding. Had she imagined it? Back in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting, watching. That her wish had been granted, but at a price not yet specified. By the end of the week, all 5 of them had stories to tell. Eliza's art teacher had submitted her portfolio to a prestigious summer program without telling her, and she'd been accepted with a full scholarship. Vince's father had actually attended his debate tournament, sitting front row and beaming with pride. And Damon couldn't stop talking about how Melissa Parker, the untouchable queen of Westridge High, had suddenly started seeking him out between classes. "It's the fucking well," Damon insisted, as they gathered at their usual lunch table. "It has to be." "That's insane," Matt said, but his hand unconsciously went to the seam on his palm, which had started bleeding during football practice whenever he performed exceptionally well. "Is anyone else seeing things?" Cassie asked hesitantly. They grew quiet. "Like what?" Eliza finally asked. "I don't know. Weird shit. Blood in places it shouldn't be. Hearing things." Vince's face paled. "You're hearing it too? The dripping?" One by one, they nodded. "And the marks," Matt added, showing his palm. They all had them. Different shapes, different places, but all connected to where they'd held their coins. "It's asking for something," Eliza whispered. "I can feel it when I paint. Like it wants payment." "For what?" Damon scoffed, but his eyes betrayed his fear. "For the wishes," Cassie said. "They're all coming true, aren't they?" They couldn't deny it, but none of them said what they were all thinking, that the terror that came with each blessing was growing, that the voice in the dripping was getting louder, more insistent. "We should go back," Matt suggested. "Try to figure out what's happening." They agreed to meet at the trailhead on Saturday morning. As they dispersed, none of them noticed the water in their bottles slowly turning dark, like ink, like blood. Eliza was alone in the art studio after school, working on a new piece. Since her wish, her hands seemed guided by some external force. The paintings practically created themselves, emerging from her brush with a skill she'd never possessed before. Her art teacher had called her work transcendent. The program she'd been accepted to was already talking about gallery showings, but each creation left her feeling hollow, as if something was being drained from her. And always there was the dripping sound, the whispers. "Feed me." She tried to ignore it, but today it was louder. As she painted, she felt the circular mark on her neck pulse in rhythm with her brushstrokes. Suddenly, her hand jerked violently, the brush slashing across the canvas. A thin line of red appeared, not paint, but blood from her fingertips, which had somehow begun to bleed. Eliza cried out, dropping the brush, but the blood continued to flow, forming patterns on the canvas. Her blood was painting on its own. The dripping sound grew deafening. "First tribute," the voice whispered. "Small sacrifice." The blood from her fingers moved with purpose, creating an image of the well. Beneath it, the blood formed words. One small cut, freely given. "What the fuck?" Eliza whispered. She backed away, but something kept her from running. A compulsion. The painting was the best thing she'd ever created. The gallery would love it. But the price. Almost against her will, she picked up an X-Acto knife from the supply table. "Just a small cut," she reasoned aloud. "It's already bleeding anyway." The knife hovered over her forearm. The mark on her neck burned. "Choose," the voice said. "The gift or the sacrifice." Eliza thought of the acceptance letter, the scholarship, her parents' proud faces. She made a small, neat incision above her wrist. Not dangerous, just a controlled line of red. Blood welled up immediately, dripping onto the floor. The sound of it hitting the tiles was loud in the empty room. Accepted. Instantly, the pain in her neck subsided. Her fingers stopped bleeding. A wave of relief washed over her, followed by a rush of creative energy so intense it made her gasp. She resumed painting, her movement sure and graceful. If the price of her talent was a little blood, wasn't that a bargain? Artists had always suffered for their work. Vince found a dead crow on his porch the next morning. Its wings were spread in an unnatural position, forming a shape similar to the mark that had appeared behind his ear. His father had taken him out for breakfast the previous day, something that had never happened before. They'd actually talked. His father had apologized for missing so many of Vince's events over the years, promised to do better. It was everything Vince had ever wanted. But when he got home, the dripping started. Next tribute. Now, looking at the crow, Vince understood. The well wanted something more substantial than Eliza's small cut. "Fuck that," he muttered, kicking the dead bird off the porch. He would ignore it, find another way. But all day at school, the sound followed him. By his last class, it was so loud he couldn't hear his teacher. The mark behind his ear burned like it was on fire. His father texted him, Proud of you, son. Planning to come to your debate next week, too. Tears sprang to Vince's eyes. He couldn't give this up. After school, he drove to a pet store 2 towns over. The kitten he bought was small, grey, unwanted. Nobody's going to miss you, he told it as he drove toward the woods. The well was exactly as they'd left it. Vince approached alone, the kitten mewling in his arms. Is this enough? He asked the darkness. The dripping sound emanated from the well's depths. Acceptable. Vince held the kitten over the opening. He wanted to think it was going to a better place, that the well would somehow spare it. But he knew better. I'm sorry, he whispered, and let go. There was no sound of the kitten hitting water. The dripping stopped immediately. The pain behind Vince's ear vanished, replaced by a warm, pleasant sensation. Driving home, he felt powerful, in control. His phone buzzed with another text from his father, asking if he wanted to go fishing that weekend. Vince smiled. The price had been worth it. They met at the trailhead on Saturday as planned, but something had changed. They could feel it as soon as they saw each other. You did it, didn't you? Cassie accused, looking at Eliza's long sleeves, at Vince's hollow eyes. You paid the tribute. Neither denied it. Matt looked away guiltily. What did you do? She pressed. What I had to, Eliza snapped. Don't pretend you're better than us. We all made wishes. I didn't know it would ask for that, Cassie said. Bullshit, Damon cut in. We all heard the whispers. We all have the marks. He rolled up his sleeve, revealing a series of deep cuts on his arm, arranged in a pattern that matched the Roman numerals carved into the well. Melissa loves me now. She does anything I want. Jesus, Damon, Matt breathed. Don't act shocked. The scout from State is coming to the game tomorrow. I've seen you on the field, bleeding into the grass. Matt's face reddened. It was true. The voice had demanded blood during each practice, each game. A deliberate cut on his palm before he took the field, blood soaking into the earth. It's getting worse, Cassie said. My mom's still sober, but the voice wants more now. Last night it asked for... She broke off, unable to say it. A living sacrifice, Vince finished for her. I know. They fell silent, the weight of what they'd done, what they were still doing, hanging between them. We have to stop, Cassie said finally. Go back to the well and... I don't know. Return the wishes somehow. Are you crazy? Damon exploded. Do you know what I went through to get Melissa? The things I had to do? It's going to keep asking for more, Matt said quietly. You know that, right? Today it's a cut, a small animal. Tomorrow. None of them finished the thought. They knew the progression. They'd all felt it in the whispers. I'm going to the well, Cassie announced. Anyone who wants to end this, come with me. She turned and walked into the forest. After a moment's hesitation, Matt followed, then Eliza. Vince and Damon exchanged glances. They're going to fuck everything up, Damon said. We can't let them, Vince agreed. They followed the others, but not to help, to protect what they'd gained. The well looked different in daylight, darker somehow, despite the sun filtering through the trees. The markings on its inner wall were more visible now, symbols and Latin phrases carved into the ancient stone. Eliza traced them with her finger. This one says equivalent exchange, I think, and this, blood binds the bargain. How do we break it? Matt asked. Cassie had been examining the stone rim. There's something here. She brushed away moss to reveal more writing. I think it says, to reclaim what was given, return what was taken. Our wishes, Matt said. We have to give them up. Damon laughed harshly from behind them. Fuck that. Some of us are happy with our bargains. You don't understand. Cassie turned to face him. It's never going to stop asking for more. The price will keep going up. So I'll pay it. Damon shrugged. Melissa's worth it. Is she worth killing for? Eliza asked quietly. Because that's where this is heading. We all know it. Vince stepped forward. You don't know that. Maybe it stabilizes. Maybe once we've proven we're serious, it levels off. That's not how this works, Matt argued. Can't you feel it? It's hungry, and we're feeding it. I'm ending my wish, Cassie declared. She moved to the well's edge. I wish to return my mother's sobriety. I reclaim what was given. Nothing happened for a moment. Then the dripping sound began, echoing up from below. The mark on Cassie's wrist burned hot. Rejection, the voice hissed. Contract sealed with blood. Tribute escalation initiated. Cassie screamed, clutching her wrist. Where the circular mark had been, her skin split open, blood flowing freely into the well. Stop her, Vince shouted, lunging forward. But Matt blocked him. No, let her try. They grappled at the well's edge, a dangerous dance on the crumbling stone. Eliza rushed to Cassie's side, trying to stop the bleeding. It's not working. We need to get her out of here. Damon stood apart, watching coldly. I tried to warn you, he said. The well doesn't release what it claims. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook. A low rumble emanated from the well, and the dripping sound intensified, becoming a rush of liquid. What's happening? Eliza screamed over the noise. The answer came in a chorus of whispers, no longer just in their heads, but filling the clearing. Final tribute commenced. The blood flowing from Cassie's wrist moved with purpose, not falling into the well, but hovering in the air, forming symbols. It's choosing, Matt realized with horror. It's selecting the final sacrifice. The floating blood suddenly shot toward Damon, encircling his neck like a noose. No, he choked, clawing at the liquid collar. I paid. I gave what it asked. Insufficient, the voices replied. The contract requires completion. The blood tightened. Darwin's eyes bulged as he was dragged toward the well. Vince grabbed him, trying to pull him back, but an invisible force knocked him away. Matt and Eliza tried next, only to be thrown to the ground. Cassie, still bleeding, watched in shock as Damon was lifted off his feet, his body suspended over the well's opening. Help me, he gasped, reaching toward them. For a terrible moment, none of them moved. Part of them, the dark part that had been feeding the well, wondered if sacrificing Damon would free the rest of them, if his death would satisfy the contract. Cassie was the first to break free of the thought. No, she said firmly, not like this. She staggered to her feet and grabbed Damon's hand. I reject the wish entirely. I choose to break the contract. The mark on her wrist flared in agony, but she held on. One by one, the others joined her. Matt gripped Damon with his bleeding palm. I reject my wish. Eliza grabbed Damon's leg. I reject my wish. They looked at Vince, who stood trembling, tears streaming down his face. My dad, he whispered. It's not real, Cassie told him gently. Not if it costs this much. Vince took a shuddering breath. Then he stepped forward and gripped Damon's arm. I reject my wish. They pulled together, fighting against the well's power. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Damon, his face purpling, choked out. I reject Melissa. The blood noose dissolved. Damon fell heavily to the ground, gasping for air. The marks on all their bodies burned white hot, then began to fade. From the well came a sound like a scream of rage, rising to a pitch that made them cover their ears. The ground shook violently, stones falling from the well's rim. "Run!" Matt shouted. They scrambled away as the well began to collapse in on itself. The last thing they saw as they fled was the dark water rising, reaching for them like grasping hands before the entire structure imploded, leaving nothing but a hole in the ground that quickly filled with ordinary dirt. The changes happened gradually. By Monday, Melissa Parker no longer knew Damon's name. Matt fumbled passes at practice, returning to his former decent but not extraordinary ability. Vince's father cancelled their fishing trip, citing work obligations. Eliza's paintings were still good, but lacked the otherworldly quality that had so impressed the gallery. And Cassie came home to find her mother passed out on the couch, an empty bottle on the floor. They didn't talk about it at school. What was there to say? They'd had everything they wanted, and they'd given it up. The only proof that any of it had happened were the scars where their marks had been, already fading to faint lines. But sometimes, in the dark of night, they still heard it. The soft, persistent sound of dripping. The whispers that promised everything for just a small price. And sometimes, when they passed a drain or a puddle or even a glass of water, they could have sworn they saw something looking back. Because they had learned the truth too late. The well didn't grant wishes. It made contracts. And contracts, once broken, could be rewritten. In the school bathroom, Damon stared at his reflection, at the thin red line circling his neck. He told the others it had disappeared with their rejection of the wishes. He had lied. "Just a little more time," he whispered to the dripping faucet. "I'll bring them back, all of them, I promise." From the drain came a satisfied gurgle. Acceptable. Behind Damon, the water in the toilet bowl slowly turned red. Some doors should never be opened, and some wells should be left alone. If this story chilled you even a little, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want more terrifying tales just like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. You never know what we'll uncover next. Thanks for watching, and whatever you do, don't look into the dark too long.